Happy New Year! If you're curious about what 2022 might hold in store, you're in luck. Astrologer Cynthia McNulty returns to talk about the big planetary movements for the upcoming year in today's episode. Welcome to the Peep Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Maroc, and on this episode, we're talking about expectations for 2022. Before we get into my interview with Cynthia, I want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone who has followed the podcast through the last year. Whether you started listening on day one or just started today, I appreciate your time. There are so many podcasts to choose from, and I'm honored that you've given the Peep Podcast a chance. I want to say welcome to listeners from beyond the United States, where I'm based, in faraway places like the UK, Africa, Australia, India, and New Zealand, to name a few. Thank you so much for being here. As I look ahead to 2022, I hope to continue to provide interesting perspectives from all corners of the paranormal community, including the academic and research side, personal stories of experiencers, and professional mediums, healers, and astrologers like Cynthia. Whether you fully believe in any of these topics, listening to understand, a skill everyone should learn for use in all aspects of life, may help you to learn more about yourself as well as the people I interview. I just ask that you keep an open mind and have fun. In the spirit of that open-mindedness, during our conversation, Cynthia does dip into politics for just a minute. It's difficult not to when talking about something as wide-ranging as the horoscope for an entire year, especially when one of the big planetary movements includes a special event relating specifically to the United States. While I usually don't discuss politics on this show, I ask you to bear with us during that part. Even if you disagree with the interpretation, it will be interesting to hear the explanation of the alignment and see for ourselves how things will play out in the future. If you listened to episode 25, you've met Cynthia McNulty. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I encourage you to do so. In it, Cynthia explained how personal birth charts and forecasts work. While that knowledge isn't required for today's conversation, it might help fill in some of the background information for you. Cynthia's website, Essential Zodiac, has more information on one of the topics we'll discuss today, Jupiter in Pisces, and I've linked to that page of her blog, Skywatch Journal, on her website, essentialzodiac.com, in case you'd like to know more or get in touch with her. Let's dive in with Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. How are you doing?
I am doing well, Nikki. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was really excited that you were able to come back. For listeners who haven't listened to episode 25, Cynthia is an astrologer, and the name of her website is essentialzodiac.com. And she talked to us. She gave us kind of a primer on astrology on her first visit. And we decided it would be a lot of fun and a great idea to have her come back and talk about what we can expect in 2022. So I just do want to say first that part of the reason that I had her on the first time was because I met her at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo in Raleigh back in August. And I took advantage of a special she was running to have my birth chart and 3 months of forecast done. And I have noticed reading the forecast as the months have gone on, way more synchronicities than I actually expected, because my only exposure to horoscope before then was what I read in the paper back when we actually looked at newspapers, or what I would see on those generic horoscope sites online. And sometimes they were pretty good, but usually they were hit or miss, and they seemed just general enough that it was like, what on earth? Why am I bothering reading this? But the personalized horoscopes, the forecasts that you send me every month, I've looked at the day and went, wow, that could not have been more spot on more often than not. So I'm like,
Well,
this should be fun.
I'm glad they've been useful. I love to hear that, because hoping my clients work with them, take advantage, and grab on to the good energy, and have a plan B for challenging energy.
Yeah, and to
So
see that
great.
coming, to know that it's coming is really, really helpful.
Right.
So like I did have one question about actually today,
Sure.
because looking at the December forecast, today Jupiter re-enters Pisces in my third house. And
Right.
I was reading it, and it says, this is funny because this was something I was already planning to do. So I just got a little confirmation out of this. It says, so Capricorn, grab any opportunity to expand your learning or qualifications, which is definitely something I was already looking into. But my question is, how long is Jupiter in Pisces? Like, is there an
So
expiration date?
yes. Jupiter will be in Pisces until the end of the year, until December of 2022.
Okay.
So you have a whole year to take advantage of the energy. And I'll be talking about Jupiter and Pisces when I do my talk too.
Okay.
So we'll get a little bit more info on that.
Cool.
I won't leave people in suspense. It's a good thing. Everybody is like kind of shell shocked, from previous events, but Jupiter in Pisces is good. So don't be scared.
Awesome. That is really good to hear. Just kick it off
Yes.
with some good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're ready to launch
Oh,
into it, go
sure.
for it.
Sure. So, you know, I, through my clients and personally, we've had a lot of upheaval thrown at us, astrologically and mundanely,
Mhm.
and so instead of just one thing to cope with, we've been coping with two or three or four, and the what has been happening has coincided with what's been going on, astrologically. In 2022, we had the Saturn, Saturn Pluto conjunctions. We had the Jupiter Pluto conjunctions. Those were all definitely game changers.
You mean for 2021?
Ours, pardon?
Sorry, you said 2022. You mean 2021,
Oh,
right?
I meant 2020.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Uh,
gotcha.
yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
No repeats. So they were major astrological transits, and they caused a lot of upheaval, and then of course throwing COVID badly beginning. Everybody has had a lot on their plates. Now this year has gotten a little better. Um, we've had Saturn Uranus squares, but they've actually been helpful. Saturn is the rule follower. Uranus is innovation. So, what you saw, the best example I could give you is the 3 vaccines we have against COVID that were developed and distributed, because you had the controlled chaos, if you would. You had the breakthrough of the drug, and then Saturn had the plan to get it out to everybody. Saturn and Jupiter this year were also in Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign. It's it's humanitarian, but it's humanitarian in that what it says, what is best for the community, not just the individual, right? So it's community based. Um, Jupiter in Aquarius, Jupiter's abundance. Even when Jupiter's retrograde, it's still kind of okay, not like the other planets that, chaos reigns. But so with Saturn and um, uh, Jupiter in Aquarius, um, Jupiter is okay. How are we going to get our innovation out to the world? All right. Because the US did promise other countries some of the vaccine, things like that. People are also have learned this year, they're getting better at working from home, getting a better work-life balance. They're figuring out, how to get their children educated. It's not perfect by any means, but it's getting there now. There's the vaccine is, for the kids, I believe, starting at 5. So, parents are able to get their kids vaccinated and all that is going. So we had, and you have to look at it this way. We had such an upheaval in 2020. I mean, from all directions. It's going to take, a couple of years. I hate to say that, but it's going to take a couple of years, to put back the pieces. Some pieces aren't going to fit. So we're going to have to figure out how to make those pieces fit. What new things can we do? So coming to 2022 now, Saturn will still be in Aquarius. Okay. So that's good news. We're going to have that controlled innovation because we still have a lot to do. I think we'll probably see the beginnings of more technology. They're developing. I mean, now in the drugstore, they have the rapid COVID tests that you could do at home. I mean, that happened in like what, less than a year?
Yeah. That's been really helpful for a lot of people I know to be able to say, okay, yeah, I'm safe, or no, I should quarantine.
Yeah, and there's one version too that the TSA will accept. I forget the name of it. There's two, but this one, the TSA will accept if you have to fly or, be, get entry into a country who are doing, restrictions and things like that. So Saturn is always disciplined. So it's not like it's going to be, wild and a free for all, because Saturn always wants to know, okay, you want to do that thing. Where's your plan? How are you going to do that? It sounds great. It's like your mom or dad when you wanted to, do something. They're like, okay, how are you going to do that? How are you going to pay for it?
Right.
Now, because Aquarius is also humanitarian, like I said before, what is best for the community, you're going to see a lot of community-based situations. It was very obvious with the initial COVID vaccinations. I know my Department of Public Health here, set up several vaccination sites. They started, churches would offer their friendship fellowship halls for people to, set up. So you're going to see more initiatives. And I think we've been, COVID has distracted everybody, not unfounded, but if half your population is dead or dying, it's hard to get other programs on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that, some of, not to get political, but I'm hoping some of the president's bills and like Build Back America, I'm hoping that maybe, soon, that those things can be passed and implemented. Because that very much falls into, that kind of Saturn Aquarius energy, doing the greater good.
Gotcha.
But everything else has to, right now, COVID is kind of taking precedence because, people aren't at work because either they're sick or, they've decided to quit. So staffing is an issue all over. So hopefully that will get better soon. We're starting the year kind of topsy-turvy because Venus went retrograde. So Venus only goes retrograde like every 18 months, every 2 years for 40 days. So it began on January 19th and it'll wrap up January 29th. What's interesting is Venus is in Capricorn. So there's a lot of sensible energy, if you would. So what's interesting about this is Capricorn is not a warm and fuzzy kind of energy. It's very pragmatic, right, Nikki?
Right.
So here, this is a good energy for getting rid of what romantically what doesn't work in your life. And you'll see a lot of people splitting up, and you'll think, oh, what happened right after the holidays? Venus retrograde is like, we've done all we can. This is it. What's also an interesting phenomenon, though, with Mercury retrograde is sometimes exes come back into your life. Now, I've been married 40 plus years, and a couple of days after Venus went retrograde, I got a friend request on Facebook. I didn't even remember the guy until I'm like, what? And then I remembered, I think I dated him freshman year of high school. And I'm like, it was brief, brief and silly. So I don't know. I don't know where that came from. But what Venus in retrograde will help us do too is get clearer on what we want in a relationship. And that doesn't necessarily mean just romantically, but if you have a business partner or any kind of relationship that I want to say is intimate, not sexually intimate, but an intimate, even a friendship with a close friend, it helps you define your boundaries and what you need. Because Venus also rules like our aesthetics, I always warn people, look, don't do anything like drastic, like to your appearance, your hair, because you'll cry after Venus goes direct because you'll be, what was I thinking? Big fancy purchases, do your research, look around, but wait until Venus goes direct because sometimes prices can get inflated.
Oh, that's interesting. I would never have thought of that one.
Yeah, Venus also is into finances. So if you follow the stock market and things seem a little inflated and then they bottom out at the end of January, it's that.
Okay.
Yeah. And back to onto Jupiter. So Jupiter goes into Pisces, and this is very good. Now, before Neptune was discovered, Jupiter ruled Pisces. So this is a very familiar energy for Jupiter, very comfortable. So Jupiter is going to operate well in Pisces. I think what we're going to see is in ourselves and others, like a spiritual awakening. I mean, Jupiter's realm is our, it is abundance and fortune and all this, but it's also our morals, our values, our spirituality. So it's not just materialistic. So I think you'll see, I hope we'll see people returning to a civilized way of being. I mean, everybody is so angry now, and some anger is definitely justified. I mean, there's people who have suffered a lot at the hands of the government for a long, long time. Their anger is justified. Their activism is justified. But, if someone accidentally cuts you off at the stoplight and you like unleash these, curses or, just terrible behavior, the Karens of the world, male and female, it's just got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was talking with my little granddaughter. She's 5. And so she wanted a cookie. And so I said, well, what's the magic word? And she's like, please, Nanny, can I have a cookie? And I'm like, yes, there you go. And we had a thank you, you're welcome exchange. And she turns, she goes, not everybody says please and thank you. And I'm like, no, they don't. And she's 5,
right.
I
Out
feel
of the
sorry
mouths of
for my
babes.
son and daughter-in-law. They have to, they have a tough road there, but at least she's saying please and thank you.
Right.
So I'm hoping that, at least it'll begin the softening of that anger, the people, turning, the other cheek. I mean, saying please and thank you. So I'm hoping that the Pisces influence, will soften some of the rough edges.
I hope so too.
I'm sorry, yes?
I said I hope so too. I think that has been partially the result of the trauma the past few years, but also contributing to additional trauma the past few years. So yeah. If that could be mitigated in any way, that would be awesome.
Yes, I think, so Jupiter will be, we'll have this whole year, Jupiter will move signs the end of December of 2022. It'll be moving into Aries, which is, now we'll have a little bit, I'm trying to see my notes here. We'll have a little taste of that in May. So from May through October, Jupiter will dip into Aries for a little bit. It's part of Jupiter's orbit. But then after that, back in Aries. So being with Aries energy, Aries is the initiator of the zodiac. With Jupiter, and Jupiter, illuminates everything, including some of Aries' aggression, but it's a very auspicious time focusing on new beginnings and fresh starts. So that those couple weeks, Jupiter is in Aries. It'll give us a chance to maybe start some new projects, maybe look at how things in our lives are going. What would we want to change? What do we want to try something new. We need to change too.
Yeah.
You can't always stay, stagnant, so it's always good for us to exercise our minds. Now, Mercury retrograde, our old friend, is going to go retrograde 4 times this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let me see. And they're all in air signs. So they're, well, the first 3 are in air signs, and the last one of the year in December, but it'll start after Christmas. So that's good, is in Capricorn. So the first 3 will, really, really personify Mercury, especially when it moves into Gemini in May, because Mercury rules Gemini. So I'll have all information on my website and in my newsletter and all that about this. But
Okay.
just so we're ready, prepare, we'll have 4 retrogrades this year. Our eclipses, we have 4 eclipses every year. They are going to be in the Taurus Scorpio axis. So this is about Taurus is stable, a stable earth energy. Scorpio is water. They're both fixed. So they can, eclipses are for new beginnings, but this eclipse energy with Taurus and Scorpio is kind of about like looking around what you have already and making it better. And Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So Scorpio is really getting, the energy is like, let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's see what is really going to go on. Then we end the year with Mars in retrograde. It'll begin in October and it'll run through till January of 2023. So that'll probably be possibly in Scorpio. I did not write that down, but October is Scorpio energy. That late in the year, so it's probably depending on how the orbit is. Mars retrograde can be an issue because it does stir up aggression, and it's like quick temper though. So someone will say something, hurt your feelings, and then move on to something else, and you're sitting there with hurt feelings, so you're going to retaliate. So it can be very snipey. And the fact that it's going through the holidays next year,
Be
get a
prepared.
couple extra bottles of wine or whatever it is you do to take the edge off,
Yeah.
So, but I've saved, I guess, the best for last. And I'll be doing a lot on this on my website and as things go along. Oh, one thing before I start, excuse me. Anybody who has Jupiter in Aquarius this year, you're going through your Jupiter return, which is a very, very beneficial time. So it's very good energy. You go through your Jupiter return every 12 years. And what that means is Jupiter moves into the exact spot it was when you were born. And like I said, that's always a very auspicious kind of energy. So if you want to find out, just send me an email or catch up with me on Facebook, or you can send a message through my website, like contact me. I will have the dates up a little bit later in January.
Okay.
The first of the year is busy for the this
I
is
can
my
imagine.
busy season. But I will have information on that, and I'll drop you an email, Nikki, and if you wanted to mention it to your listeners that it's up, that'd
Okay.
be
That sounds good. Yeah, I can share it with my Facebook page and my Facebook group,
yeah,
Twitter
yeah.
followers. And if you want to go ahead, I'm going to, just like last time, I'll link to your website in the show notes.
Yes.
But if you want to go ahead and give your email address, you're welcome to.
Oh, sure. It's C as in Charlie, G as in George, M as in Mary, 1028 at yahoo.com.
Okay.
And my website is www.essentialzodiac.com. So,
Okay.
but now on to the big news, and you're going to hear this all year. The United States is having its Pluto return. Now, a regular person will never have a Pluto return because Pluto takes approximately 250 years
Wow.
to orbit the sun. Yes, yes. So Pluto is now in Capricorn. And that was the sign it was discovered back in the 1850s, I believe. And so, yeah, so nobody on, no human has ever had a Pluto return. Countries have, and we've seen those because, there are certainly countries older than the United States.
Right.
So astrologers have observed for them. But it's one of those once in a lifetime planetary event. It begins on February 20th, and it'll last by until 2024 because Pluto moves so slow. It's not a speedy planet. Things take forever. That's why Pluto is in a sign anywhere from like 10 to 15, 20 years. Now, there's debate, in the astrological community. I think one thing is astrologers love to debate each other. I just, what house system is best? Should we go Vedic or Western? Oh, Lord. Sometimes at conferences, I'm just like, okay, enough. So there is a debate actually when the United States became a nation. The accepted by 90% of the astrology community, the accepted inception date is July 4th, 1776, 5:15 p.m. in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And they use that date because it was in someone, they found it in a Mr. Silby, Silbey, his journal, his diary. I forget exactly his position. I think he was an aide or, a secretary, but he wrote in his diary about everyone signing the Constitution. And this is, late afternoon, near dinner, and, so everybody, no one debates the date. Everybody debates the time. There's a chart out there that says something like 10 o'clock in the morning. But if we know anything, if you know anything about Congress, whether then or now, I am sure it didn't get done, business didn't get concluded at 10 o'clock in the morning. I could see it getting concluded at 5 because everybody wants dinner. But um, so, so this is the date that is most accepted. So this is very huge. I mean, Pluto in Capricorn all has to do with power, structure, dynamics. And I mean, we've seen that when Pluto went into Capricorn, that's when we started seeing differences in banking. I mean, it was 2008, I believe, when Jupiter went into Capricorn. And look, just take one industry, banking, how that's changed. I mean, I haven't gone into a bank in, I don't even know how long, because I do everything online. I can even deposit, checks online, all that, occasionally I'll have cash. Well, I can use the ATM,
Right.
So you have that. So the rumblings, if you would, have already started. And, we're getting rumblings from both sides. We have, Democrats and Republicans are more divided than they've ever been. We can point fingers and lay blame, but that's really not helpful.
Right.
I mean, we need a solution to the, division in the country. And this, I feel this will, when the dust settles, I think this will have done it. When we look at other countries, what has happened during their Pluto return, there's different, like there's changes in the law. So hopefully that'll be a positive for the women's movement, who have been trying to get the Equal Rights Amendment passed since the 70s. Maybe, but it might be bad news because, I always say to people, there's two sides of the coin. You don't know which one you're going to get. So you hope things go your way, but you don't always know. There's been shifts in government structure and balance of power. That's deep corruption has been exposed. Now that I feel is coming between the January 6th committee and the New York Attorney General. I feel a storm is coming for Trump and all of his cohorts. And it's not like, it's not like his particular brand of person is loyal. So he's going to do everything in his power to throw everybody else under the bus. And probably do that to him. So it should be very interesting, but there's definitely, in past experiences that coming out. Mm-hmm. There'll probably be new agreements, new partnerships with other countries, new allies, changes in banking and in the economy, changes in big business, and changes in allies, and a need to heal from the past. Now, that's all that has been with other countries. So we'll see how it works for us. So, what we'll also see, especially when we're exposing deep corruption, will will the 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 people pulling the strings, like the puppet masters, will be exposed because there's always layers.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me laugh, but you can look at these power brokers, these political power brokers, just like the mafia. You really never know, or the Don never really gets his hands dirty. He has all his underlings do his dirty work. Well, it's the same in politics. So you have the underlings doing your dirty work. I mean, Nixon didn't do the wiretapping himself, he got someone to do it, right? Same thing. And, they're not going to want to, well, and of course, the prosecutors are always going to give them deals so that they can get to the real power,
Yeah.
and do that. So it should be interesting. And I think one thing is people are going to have to take a stand. They're going to have to, say, this is not right. This is unacceptable. Some people are doing that, but I think we need more voices. And it was funny. My dad was a man of few words,
Mm-hmm.
but he had very definite ideas. And he used to tell me and my brother, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
not.
popular.
It's a quote. I don't remember who said it first, but um, my dad used to say it for us because he was an interesting kind of guy, and he was okay with us disagreeing with him as long as we had a well-founded argument.
Yeah,
Excuse me, just 1 second here.
that's okay.
Even if I said, well, my teacher said, that wasn't still good enough. It had to be, all right, what do you think? He did encourage us to think on our, which was very unusual. Well, he was an immigrant from Sicily, and um, you know, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, so you weren't really encouraged by your parents to think for yourself, but he did. Um, so I always remember that, and I used to say it to my kids too. So
Yeah, it's a good quote.
yeah, yeah, and it's very true, and I think you know we're all going to have to be brave and say no. Nothing is perfect, but that is way out of line. In general, there's always positive and there's always challenges, and things surprise you, people surprise you, um and that is what I think is like most fascinating, how people are going to change. Now, one thing too, um with uh the Pluto return, that is going to be, well, it starts in February, but that's going to be um active around the midterms, because we
Yeah.
have the midterms coming up in 2022 for some areas. So we have to keep an eye on that. I don't know what I'm hoping too is, and I would have to look when that's going to be, but what I would hope is that Neptune will be retrograde, because when Neptune's retrograde, um, when Neptune's direct, let me say that, there's like this veil, like you see the world with rose-colored glasses.
Mm-hmm.
When Neptune is retrograde, the rose-colored glasses come off and you see the lies, you see the deception. So that's what I'm hoping will happen as well. So, the truth is there, you have to act on it, not everybody, they see it, but they don't necessarily act on it. So, but I think one thing everybody has to keep in mind is that, we are moving forward. Maybe not as quickly as we would hope to. But this is not a terrible forecast. I mean, I know there's uncertainty with Pluto, but change is good. It's sometimes scary, but in the end, it's usually good.
Yeah.
So we all need to just pay attention, find a reputable news outlet. Don't take everything at face value, read.
Yeah. Do more than just read the headlines, actually read stories.
Right, really read the article.
Yeah.
And any of your listeners out there, like Nikki mentioned, I could do your personal horoscopes to give you a heads up. Monthly or daily. There's 2 versions. You could sign up for my newsletter. It has not as detailed, but there's stuff in there. And my blog on my website, Skywatch Journal, always has the things, And anybody out there born in January, your solar return is happening, and that's when your sun moves into the exact spot it was when you were born. So this becomes like your personal new year. That's always a good planning tool. It's like, what have you got going? What's happening? It's like, oh, I want to take advantage of that, especially, everybody in January seems to want to make some changes, jobs, or maybe you want to move or different things like that. So it's kind of nice to know, where your year might be falling out. So
yeah,
that's always important,
and
give you an idea.
As a Capricorn, that is definitely me. And
yes, well, you do like things nice and tidy, and I have a couple of Capricorn friends, and they're just delights. Whenever I'm unsure about a date or whatever, I call them, and they're like, "Oh no, that's blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Okay, thank you." I'm a fire sign. I'm a Leo, so like any cat, I get distracted. Show me a string or a box, and I'm like, "Oh, what's that?"
Oh yeah.
So, that's why I get along with my cats. I think they know they can see the feline, in me. So
that was cool.
But, so yeah, and like I said, go on my website. I have chakra oils, stones. I have that along with astrology. So just take a look, see around.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to put the link to the website in the show notes.
Sure.
So if my listeners are interested in getting in touch with Cynthia, all they have to do is tap on that link.
Yes.
Thank you again for taking the time out of your holiday season to talk with me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Nikki. Anytime. I love to talk astrology, so this is great. So yeah, anytime. I love it.
Awesome. I'm sure we'll do it again. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Thanks again to Cynthia for joining me for a second time. And thank you for listening. You can keep up with the show on its Facebook page, facebook.com/peeppodcast. We have a group linked from that page in case you're interested in joining the conversation. One thing to note about that group is that I only approve group members who answer the questions, and unfortunately, Facebook does not keep a list of people who'd be interested in being on the show. So if you said yes to that question, please get in touch through the website. If you have an idea for a show topic, you can fill out the contact form at peeppodcast.com. That's PEEP podcast.com. Remember, that stands for People Experiencing Everyday Paranormal. If I can find a study about it, I'll be happy to use it. Special thanks to listeners who have submitted topic ideas. Also, if you're interested in sharing your own personal stories of paranormal experiences, I'd love to have you on the show. It can be as anonymous as you'd like. If you enjoy the podcast, please give it some rating love on your favorite podcast app. Share it with friends and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Doing so will also help the podcast be found by others. Special thanks to everyone who has given the show some love. I really appreciate it. The Peep podcast is 100% free to enjoy, but not free for me to create. So like many other independent podcasters, I'll happily accept donations. If you're interested in supporting the show financially, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/NicoleMaroc or join me on patreon.com/NicoleMaroc. All donations will be received with humble gratitude. No matter how you support the show, listening, telling others about it, financial assistance, or in any other way, I always appreciate you being here. Thanks again for listening. Stay safe and be well.
Wow.